This is a really great flight. It did take me 3 attempts to get airborne. I'll show you the issues I had in a minute. But took off from Wingland, and early in the morning, very frosty, light winds, probably 3 miles an hour, something like that. And went into this danger area, which was deactivated. It's normally a bombing run. Crossed these 2 rivers, and then up the coast, which was really great. Dropped down, did some low-level flying, and where there was no people. And went up to the lighthouse, and then did a turn, and then came back, avoiding these exclusion areas here, and then over a medieval castle called Castle Rising, which is great. And then over King's Lynn, through the city centre, over the cathedral, and then just made straight back. So the flight was 2.5 hours long, so I just I did plan to go up the river here and then along, but I thought I'll just get straight back. I was getting cold at that point, and kept my trimmers in for most of the flight, so that was really good. So a very frosty morning. It's probably about -1, -2 degrees C, something like that. So the wing didn't get too wet, which is good. But after I laid my wing out, the wind did change direction slightly, and it was pulling over to the left, and I couldn't correct it in time. So it just fell down basically. And guys at the field, thanks very much, Martin and Howard. They helped me really let my wing out. Howard Paul started me. I had all my gear on, so I was quite hot. So it was very grateful to them to help me get going again. And then here I go. So off after my second launch. At this point, I heard some weird sounds coming from the engine. So I decided to cut my engine and find out what the hell was going on, basically. So it turns out that the Bulldog Paramotor has a tensioning cable that holds the net in place, and there's a little hook underneath, and the loop, or the little eye that goes into the hook, wasn't quite seated correctly, so it had come undone as I took off, and that meant that the tension around the netting had come away, and the prop had hit a little bit of the net and cut it. So luckily I had some zip ties, did a quick field repair, fixed the net, and had a coffee, and then came back about half an hour later, and here's my 3rd attempt. So on the left here is the danger area. RAF use it for bombing and strafing practice, and luckily that was deactivated, so I decided to fly into it just to cut down a bit of time around towards Hunstanton. This was really good fun. Waited until there were no people on the beach, and then dropped down and just did some low level flying, probably about 2 feet off the ground, just along the beach for a little bit until I saw some more people, and then I went back up again. Yeah, really good fun. On the right hand side is Heacham. So at the front is the holiday park, and behind is Heacham village or town. I'm not sure if it's a village or a town. So I'm doing a bit more cheeky low level flying. Really good fun. There were loads and loads of people waving at me. There were lots of people walking their dogs and having a stroll on the beach. They all seemed quite happy to see me, so it was really nice to wave at everyone. So on the right hand side is Hunstanton. It's the new part of Hunstanton. Further up the coast is the old Hunstanton. There's an old shipwreck here, which is pretty cool. I also like the colours in the cliff there, the different layers of rock. It's quite cool to look at as you're flying along. So this is the old Hunstanton. There's the big car park on the cliff top there. And yeah, this part of the beach gets very popular in summer with people swimming and stuff. And then once I go past Old Hunstanton, I loop round the back of it and then head down towards Castle Rising. This is around the back of Heacham with the holiday park in the distance, and then I fly pretty much over it. This is Castle Rising. Work began to build it in 1138 by the Norman lord William d'Albini for his new wife, the widow of Henry I. So there we go. And in the 14th century it became the luxurious residence of Queen Isabella, widow of Edward II. That's pretty cool. So heading into King's Lynn and fly pretty much over the cathedral. So went up to about 1200 feet to stay over the city. Went trims out over King's Lynn just to get over quickly, and then just went straight back to the airfield from this point really. So just as I'm coming into land, a guy on the right has a bit of an accident on launch. I think his wing stalled behind him for some reason.
On the wing.